Well, good morning, students. Here we are meeting virtually again this week. I hope you all had a very happy Thanksgiving. I know we had a great Thanksgiving. Instead of baking a turkey, we smoked a turkey. I'm telling you, it's really good. We also had mashed potatoes and cranberry with whipping cream over the top. If we were in class together, I would ask you all what was your favorite part of Thanksgiving, your favorite food. When we met before on Zoom, I think I tried to ask each of you if you could tell me what your favorite pie was, and had a lot of favorite pumpkin pie. So one of my favorites too. Well, for today, I want to give you an introduction into the components of a computer. So maybe you are watching this video right now on a computer, and I want to make sure that you understand all the different parts that go on inside of a computer. And we'll look at it in basically two different stages. And then a few other components for today. I want to encourage you, as always, to keep up on your Schoology work and all of your homework. Make sure you're doing your best on that. And then, as we would in class, see if you can today, make sure to spend at least 15 minutes practicing your typing. You'll remember the website typing.com is the one that we've been using. And then whatever skill level that you are working at, continue to challenge yourself and move on to the next harder level. And you'll find as you advance, there are some fun games that you'll be able to play from that website as well. So don't forget, 15 minutes today on your typing. In addition to that, I have a video. I think it's entitled Digital Responsibility, and this one just looks at how much you are building your diet on both media and where you find that from, and entertainment, and how that relates to technology, and making sure you're being responsible with that. Just like with Thanksgiving dinner, if you ate too many mashed potatoes, you might be holding your belly saying, "Oh, I ate too much." And the video is going to also encourage you to make sure that you have a good balanced diet of those things that you think might be fun in your life, but that you're not overindulging or overeating too much in any one area. So we want to encourage the students, as you are learning more about technology, to understand that technology, as fun as it can be, can actually produce an unbalanced appetite in your life, where you might spend too much time in front of a screen, where you need to get outside and play and exercise your muscles and your mind and your imagination. So there's a video linked for that, and we would spend some time in discussion over that in our class time, but I will see if I'll put a couple questions for homework for you to think through. The first being, what do you think you spend the most time doing? Well, as we're looking at the components of a computer, I said we're going to do so in two phases. The first phase is to look at two very simple parts called the input and the output. So the input is that part of the computer that receives information. We have that in a few ways. In fact, one way that you're looking at right now is through the digital camera that's located right here on my computer. It's actually taking in information. Another part is the microphone that's located right over on this side, and that is receiving audio information. Some other forms of input on a computer mainly are the keyboard and the mouse. So a mouse comes in two different kinds. You'll see one like this. That's a wireless mouse. We also have others that are wired mouse, or maybe like the one you have on your computer, which is a trackpad, which is just a flat surface that takes the input from your finger and allows you to interact and bring information into the computer. So keyboards, they're pretty easy to understand. Mice are pretty easy to understand. All of those are part of the computer that we call the input, because we put in information. All right, I'll review those again real quick. We have the camera, we have a microphone, we have the keyboard, and we have the mouse. There's a few other areas where information can be put into a computer, and they might be located on the sides of your computer. I have with me here today a laptop, and this one has a CD drive that's located right here. And so you can put in information with the CD drive, and over on this side you will see some areas for adding some peripherals. This one is one that we're not going to talk about right now because it is output designed. But this one is an Ethernet port, and this one right here is the Ethernet port, and then this one and this one right here are USB ports. So that's where you would put in information for like a thumb drive or a memory stick. I have with me today a really old-fashioned form of computer input. This is called a floppy disk reader. You can ask your grandma and grandpa what those are, but floppy disks and floppy disk drives used to be these forms of media even before we had CDs that now you need to have a special kind of reader to get them to work. But those are all different forms of input for a computer because you're putting in information. And the other type is output. There are really two primary forms of output on a computer, and that is audio and video. So the audio comes through the speakers on your computer, and your computer likely has a little area somewhere on it where you can hear sound. That's part of the audio output of a computer. And the video output is what you're looking at right now. It's on the screen. Now we have these same two forms of relationship with technology for all different devices. In fact, on a phone, you will see the phone has a place for output. That's the screen right here, and on the screen you will see everything that's in front of you, and then you have some speakers on the bottom, and those are audio output. So video output and audio output here, and we can see if I turn my screen on, we have got everything that you can look at. There is another form of relationship that we have with the device, and this one doesn't work with a keyboard. Now, it doesn't even need explanation for the youth today, for you know what device you need to operate a screen. What is it? Right here. So this is your keyboard, and this is how to interact. Nowadays, the technology within these kinds of devices is so advanced that some commands you can even speak. So a form of input for the device is just using your words, and they unlock using your face now. So we have a few different new ways of interacting with technology in our world, but it still falls in those two basic categories of input and output. I wonder if you could get out a piece of paper and write down all the various ways that the computer receives in information, and see if you can identify then the two primary ways that it brings out information. And I do want to review real quick once more. This device, or this plug right here, is a VGA output, so it has to do with the video output. We looked at last week the subject of resolution, and you remember that was the distance in the vertical and in the horizontal for pixels and pixel density. Well, VGA is it's outdated now, but it used to be a way of communicating for video output to something like a CRT monitor. It's a cathode ray tube monitor, or maybe a projector that also uses low resolution. Nowadays, everything is HDMI, or a Thunderbolt, I think, is a newer technology, pushing out 4K and even 8K. Well, I'd like to show you the second part of what makes up a computer. And this is going to include some really a breakdown of how a computer works. So we're going to see things like where the memory is stored on something called a hard drive. We're going to see where short-term memory is stored in something called random access memory, or a RAM chip. And then the chassis of the computer, the battery of the computer, the main processor of the computer, and a few other little components as well. So let's take a look. Okay, I have with me today this laptop I was showing you in the video before. This is a Dell computer, and it is a laptop, one that we call a Chromebook. I could tell you about the differences between manufacturers and designs for computer operating systems. I'll save that for another day. Today we want to look at the guts of this computer. So I'm going to turn it around so we can get a good look at it. And in order to do this right, I'm going to need some tools. So let me get those out here right now. And we're only going to need a couple different tools for today. We're going to need a screwdriver that's going to have a small Phillips head on it. So I will pick this one and get my screwdriver out. It has a magnetic attachment to it so that I don't lose any screws. And then we're also going to need just a small little plastic pry device to get into a couple little tight spaces. So we'll put these aside for now. And the very first thing you want to do with your computer is make sure you remove the battery. And this right here down at the bottom, this side right here is the battery. So you'll see there's two locks on each side. If you pull those apart, we can just easily lift up on this one side, or if you turned it over, it'll come right out. And there is our battery right here, 40 watt hours Dell standard battery. The connection's right there, but this will make sure that we don't get any nasty shocks as we're working through the rest of the machine. As you can see on this computer, it doesn't have too many access bays for us to get into. I would have to take out quite a few screws here, and rather than taking the whole thing apart just for today's demonstration, I will only remove this one front panel right here, and that'll give us access to just about everything that we want to take a look at. So just one little screw right here to remove. I'll set that aside, and then reach underneath here, see if we can lift this up, and our lid pops right off. And here are some of the guts within our laptop. I'll point out just a few different parts. In fact, three here that we can see right off the bat. This part right here is the hard drive. This is a 3.5-inch spinning platter. So this makes up the place where the computer is going to keep all of the information stored in its long-term memory. And then right over here on this side, you will see a chip in this bay right here. And this is made up, you see 4 different little modules on there. And this is called the RAM slot. This computer has an extra RAM slot. It's right down here, DIMMB. So it shows it has room for a second slot, but this one's empty right now. If you pull over on these two little levers, it'll pop up like this, and this is how you can take out the RAM. If you wanted to add some new RAM or upgraded RAM to it, and you are able to do that here. To replace it, all you do is make sure to slide it back upon the pins and then firmly press down on the corners till you hear it click. And this is where the short-term memory of the computer is stored in RAM. Just 2 other parts to show you here, maybe a third. This is another place where we have computer input for storage. This is an SD slot. If you have a little chip for memory, it would go in right there in order to be read. And then this spot right here, see if I can move this up so you can see what I'm doing. This spot right here and this one right here, these are speakers. And if you look back on the lid that we took off, you'll see 2 different grates right here that let the sound come out. And that's where you hear all the sounds, which is a form of output of the computer so that you can interact with what's happening below in all the circuitry. Last thing we'll do is here just take out the hard drive and take a glimpse of it real quick. 3 screws to pull out, 2 that are actually holding it in. And you know what? I don't think I'm going to need to take those 2 out. I think I'll just need to take this one out right here. And that should allow us to remove the hard drive. Our hard drive here has a little pull tab that helps it to come out nice and secure and safe, and there we have it. This is the hard drive. All the specifications are on this side. It's a Seagate 500 gigabyte memory hard drive, and you can see how very thin it is. In another video, as we work to the older grades, 6th through 12th grade, we will take one of these apart and actually study the properties of magnetism that are going on inside of here that keep all the information, that play all of the movies and music that we enjoy, and the pictures, documents, and websites we visit. So all of that is stored by magnets, recorded as a 1 or a 0, an on or an off on these little tiny platters. So we want to be very careful with this part of the computer. So we're going to very carefully slip it back into its bay here, into its enclosure, and then slide up to make sure that the pins all line up. And sure enough, they go right back in like they're designed to. And we'll just quickly replace the screw that we took out on this side, securing the hard drive so that it doesn't slip out while we're carrying it around. And there we have it. You will find some other things that we haven't had time to take apart and see, like the processor and the motherboard. You've probably heard that term before. It's all underneath this plastic with all the other circuitry that's involved in making a computer work the way it's designed to work. And we'll have to save most of that for another time. For now, we are going to put this back together, and I got to get these wires tucked under right here so that everything clips back in the way it was designed to. Let's make sure this gets in here. There we go. Oh, I'm having a little difficulty with that part right there. There, I think I got it this time. There we go. Heard the click go in. And one more screw just to replace that. Last thing we need to do, as we've gotten all of our components back together, is put our battery back into place. And you want to make sure that you're tipping the contacts onto the contacts first of all, nice and secure like this, and then you'll hear a click when it's back in, ready to go, locked up and ready to be used. So there you go, a little bit of the guts and the insides working of a computer for us to look at today. Well, I hope you enjoyed taking a look there at the guts and insides of a computer. Technology is a lot of fun to look at and even dissect, to learn about how all the different parts work together to make a seamless interaction for our experience with technology. We will no doubt begin to break down and look at each of these different components in more and greater detail, getting to learn how engineers have designed computers to work and how over time they've become smaller and faster to where now you have little miniature computers as opposed to when they were the size of an entire room. Want to just make sure, quick disclaimer, that you check with your mom or your dad or a parent or a guardian before you take apart any computers. This is posted on the internet, and so I warned you first. Make sure that you talk to an adult before you take apart their computer. But it can be a lot of fun looking into all of them. So don't forget, you got 15 minutes of typing. I'd love for you to take a look at the video on digital responsibility, and remember that our diet needs to be a wide diversity of different influences, not just screen time all the time, but to learn to be responsible, to have a healthy, balanced diet there. And then remember the two aspects we looked at today, the input and the output of a computer, and then all of those guts and the components that make up the devices we use every day. With that, I'll encourage you to stay safe and have fun.